Close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and let it out slowly. You are safe here. You are warm. The sounds of the night wrap around you like a blanket. Outside, the world is quiet. The streets are empty. The houses are dark. But in the spaces between, in the shadows where the streetlights don't reach, that is where the stories live. Tonight's story takes us to a train platform that exists on no map, in a station that was never built, in a tunnel that leads to nowhere at all. She had taken the last train home 100 times before. It was always the same. The car would empty out station by station until she was alone with the hum of the rails and the reflection of her own face in the dark window. She would read, or she would close her eyes, and she would arrive at her stop like clockwork. But tonight was different. Tonight, she woke to the sound of the train slowing. The rhythm beneath her changed, the steady clatter softening to something gentler, almost hesitant. She opened her eyes. The car was empty. Not empty the way it usually was, with 1 or 2 other passengers dozing in the back. Empty as in no one. She looked at her phone. No signal. The time display blinked and showed 3 colons in a row. No numbers at all. The train came to a stop. The doors opened with a sound she had never heard before. A long exhalation, like the train was breathing out. She stood and looked through the open doors onto a platform. It was not her stop. It was not any stop she recognized. The platform was made of pale stone, clean and smooth, with no cracks or wear. The ceiling arched overhead like the inside of a cathedral, but there were no windows, no sky. Fluorescent lights hummed along the vault, casting everything in a washed-out glow that made shadows appear softer than they should have been. She looked at the signs on the platform. There were words on them, but they were written in no alphabet she had ever seen. The characters were elegant, curving, almost musical in their shapes, but they meant nothing to her. She checked behind her. The train sat at the platform, its doors still open. Its windows were dark. She could not see inside. She stepped off onto the pale stone, and her footsteps echoed in the vast space. The platform stretched out in both directions, and at either end, the tunnels gaped open like mouths, black and absolute. She could see nothing inside them. Not tracks, not walls, not even the suggestion of depth. She looked back at the train. It was still there, still waiting, but something had changed. The lights inside were off now, or perhaps they had never been on. She could not tell. She turned back to the platform and walked a few steps further. The air was cool and still. It tasted faintly of old paper and iron. She noticed the benches. They were arranged in neat rows, all identical, all made of the same pale stone as the platform. They were empty. No bags, no newspapers, no signs that anyone had ever sat in them. And yet they felt used. They felt worn in a way that had nothing to do with physical wear. They carried the weight of waiting. She checked her phone again. Still no signal. Still no time. She tried to call. The call would not go through. She tried to send a message. It sat in the outbox, unsent. and the little spinning wheel beside it never stopped turning. Then she heard it, a sound from one of the tunnels, a low rumble, distant at first, then growing, a vibration she felt in her chest before she heard it with her ears. A train was coming. She stepped back to the edge of the platform and looked into the black mouth of the tunnel. She could see nothing, but the sound was getting closer. The train emerged from the darkness without warning. It was there one moment and not the next. It was black. Not a particular shade of black, but a blackness that seemed to absorb the light around it. Its windows were dark, everyone, and she could not see the passengers inside. There were no numbers on its exterior, no destination sign, no livery she recognized. It pulled into the platform and stopped with a sigh of hydraulics, and its doors opened. She waited for someone to get off. No one did. She waited for someone to call out, or for the doors to close. Nothing happened. The doors simply stayed open, offering nothing and everything at once. And then she felt it, a presence behind her. She had not heard anyone approach. The platform was wide and open, and her footsteps had echoed with every step she took. But someone was standing behind her. She could feel the weight of their gaze on the back of her neck, the way you can feel someone watching you even when you cannot see them. She turned around. The platform was empty, but not the way it had been before. The benches were still there. The pale stone was still there. But the air had changed. It felt heavier, denser, as if the space had thickened. And at the far end of the platform, where the tunnel gaped open, there was a shape. It was not a person. It was the outline of a person, the suggestion of a figure, dark and indistinct, standing just at the edge of the light. It was not moving. It was not doing anything at all. It was simply there. She turned back to the black train. Its doors were still open. The air coming from inside was cold, colder than the air on the platform, and it carried a scent she could not name. She looked at her phone one last time. The screen showed nothing now. No bars, no time, no battery indicator, just a blank gray rectangle. She stepped onto the train. The doors closed behind her with a soft click, and the train began to move. She sat down in the nearest seat. The fabric was cold against her skin. She looked out the window, but there was nothing to see. Just darkness, absolute and complete, rolling past like water. She looked at the other seats. They were all empty. She looked at the ceiling. The lights inside the car were dim, barely enough to see by, and they flickered once in a while, a slight stutter in the glow. But you are safe here. The night protects you. The train carries you forward, and the darkness outside is only darkness. She tried the doors. They would not open. She pressed the emergency button, but nothing happened. She sat back down and watched the darkness roll by. Minutes passed, or hours. She could not tell. Time felt different here, stretched and thin, like a rubber band pulled too far. She closed her eyes and listened to the rhythm of the train. It was almost soothing, if she did not think about where she was going. She opened her eyes and looked out the window again. The darkness was changing. It was not lighter, exactly, but there were shapes in it now. Faint outlines barely visible, like structures passing by in the fog. She pressed her face to the glass. They were buildings, towers and bridges and houses, all of them dark, all of them empty, all of them standing in a landscape that had no horizon and no sky. The train moved through them without slowing, and they passed by like memories she had never made. She realized she could not remember getting on this train. She could remember the platform, the pale stone, the signs in the unknown language. But before that, there was nothing. No work, no commute, no normal evening that had led her here. It was as if the station was the beginning of her, and everything before it was a story someone else had told her. The train slowed again. She stood and went to the doors. Through the glass, she could see another platform. This one was different. It was narrower, lower, with walls of dark tile and a ceiling that pressed close overhead. There were no signs here. There was only a single bench, and on the bench there was a bag. It was her bag. She recognized the color, the shape, the worn strap. It was sitting on the bench as if she had left it there, as if she had been here before. The train stopped. The doors opened. She stepped out onto the dark tile platform. The doors closed behind her and the train pulled away, its lights disappearing into the tunnel until there was nothing left but the sound, fading to nothing. She stood alone on the platform. She picked up the bag. It was heavy, and when she opened it, she found her phone inside. It was on. It showed full signal. The time was 11:58, and the date was 3 days ago. She looked around. The tunnel in one direction was dark. The tunnel in the other direction was dark. She had no way of knowing which way led out. She had no way of knowing if either way led out at all. Somewhere, very faintly, she heard the sound of a train. It might have been coming. It might have been going. She could not tell. And she stood there on the platform that was not on any map, in the station that was not on any schedule. And she waited, because there was nothing else to do. You are safe here. The train moves through the dark, and the dark is patient. It will carry you where you need to go. Close your eyes. Let the darkness hold you. Sleep well.